Welcome back to another segment of ACRP TV. Today, our spotlight on our Promoting Workforce Diversity ongoing series. It's an important issue. We want to keep looking at it from different angles. Today, we've got a great guest with us, Pamela Nelson, President and CEO of the Bracane Company, and she's been in the industry for quite a long time, has quite a lot of experience. We're lucky to have you with us today, Pamela. Thank you so much for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Let's jump right in. This is a big issue. The clinical trial industry has struggled with workforce diversity and patient population diversity for a long time. We've tried different things, hasn't moved the needle too much, but I want to talk to you today, for starters, about why diversity is so important in the workforce, in the clinical trial workforce.
So Mike, for me, in looking at it, diversity is just important because, especially in research, we are developing medications, we're developing devices, and if we don't have a diverse population that is in the trials, then how can we effectively know that the same product is going to work on the people that ultimately will use it? So that's one of the reasons why, to me, diversity is important. But at the same time, on the workforce side, you want the workforce to also look like those people that are going to be using the product as well, because ultimately they're going to be developing, or some of the aspect of it is we're developing products that may be used by us or our family members. And so again, it's the same thing. We want the diversity to be across all streams, and then it makes it a lot easier for us to be, to me, it's more about that fairness, that equitable, that, this isn't just it's all of us need to be represented in what we're doing. And we have smart people in every category of all races, very smart people to be in this industry. And so I think that's why it's very important that they be represented.
And it just makes sense. These are literally matters of life and death. Some of these medicines, it's prolonging life, it's alleviating suffering, and you want to tap the strongest possible pool of everybody out there. It's shame to waste anything, so to speak. So it's ethically correct and scientifically correct. I mean, on all levels, it's obviously the right thing to do. Let me ask you, though, about your own experience. You've worked at big companies and you've been in the industry a while. Your company now is smaller, and I know that maybe for small companies or smaller operations, promoting workforce diversity has its own unique challenges. I mean, talk about your experience there.
So for us, a lot of times, because being an African-American woman and owning a company in research, oftentimes, we get the same, like who else is a part of our team, as if that we're not able to, to manage larger projects, or that we're not serious. That's one of the things.
Is that sort of a subtle racism? Is that
I don't know if it's considered. Probably, if I look at it in one sense, I would say it's a racism. But the other one is more of, I think it's just because it's not the norm to see someone that looks like me running a company in an industry at this level. Now, you would expect to see me or other companies. We might do home health, or there's other aspects that you typically would see, but not at this area, not at this level. Or if I was a medical doctor, again, it's like, okay, we're used to seeing minority physicians, but then to be, doing other things, developing the medications or coming up with the products, that's typically not what we see. It should be, but that's not the norm of what we see in our society and are known to accept. Or a lot of times you don't know who's behind the face, because a lot of times minorities, because they don't want to have their product or their company branded as a minority company, they put other people out front for them so that there is no bias, which I think still creates a problem.
Interesting. And we're seeing it today in today's headlines. Vice President Harris, or Vice President-elect Harris, has put together her top team, and the media is making a fairly big deal of the fact that it's all women, and mostly women of color. And that's the big headline. And of course, it's historical and it's important. It's groundbreaking. But sort of to your point, it almost shouldn't be a story. It should just be.
Shouldn't be a story. No, it should be. It should just be a part of the conversation. Yes, it eventually is going to happen, and at some point, it is going to be the first or the very first. But it, as old as this country is, why are we just now seeing the first? We should have very few firsts right now in any area, and that's not happening.
Okay, on that note, last question, I want to end on a potentially optimistic note. But if you disagree, say so. Do you see room for optimism now? Do you feel better about our prospects for diversifying the workforce in clinical trials, say, compared to where we were 5 or 10 years ago?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I worked for a large pharmaceutical company about 20 years ago. I was there, and we had this same initiative. The workforce at the time was, I can't say that it was any more diverse. There were probably fewer African Americans in the different roles, and they were kind of scattered around, but there wasn't a lot to even make an impact. And the goal that they had at the time was to diversify the workforce. Some people, put more project managers of African American descent or Hispanic, put more CRAs or monitors in the field, more investigators. We needed more principal investigators that were a minority, and that was a big deal back in the early 2000s. And now here we are 20 years later, and we are at this point again of, did we diverse enough? Because even if there was a push, eventually it died down, the conversations ended, and we fall back into our original pattern. And that's what I see happening a lot. I mean, 6 months ago, we were really, really hyping up on all the things that were there. We need to do something about this. But now we've been into this crisis for 6-9 months now. Is it going to change? How long is this going to last? And I think it's not something that we can make and do just because we're in the headlines. I think it's a constant process that has to keep going, and we can't lose those people who are encouraging this and forcing this. It just should be the norm. It should not be that, what Kamala Harris is doing is that far-fetched. It should just not be that way. And it's great when it happens, but it's also kind of a sad thing too, because this country is over 200 years old, and we're still, fighting for diversity among our teams to be represented.
Well, I really appreciate your time here. This has been our ACRP TV spotlight on promoting workforce diversity, part of our ongoing series. It's encouraging to see somebody like Pamela Nelson out in the field. I think people like you are going to help make some change here, affect some change, and it's about time. So I want to thank you so much for joining us, Pamela.
Okay, thank you.